start with a little Manglacharan invocation just to set the mood. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadavaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadvaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Ram Hare Hare. All right, my two friends, Carlo, Rahul, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share things that I'm very much interested in. So today's topic is wisdom from the Vedas, ethics from epics. And ethics from epics is actually a title that I took from a book that I'm reading, and I'm so sorry I can't remember the author this second, but they did a lot of hard work and went through a lot of wisdom texts from the Vedas and then kind of took the essence and compiled it in this very beautiful book. So I'm going to share some of my own reflections and some of their reflections with you. So let's begin. So the first part I want to talk about is from Mahabharat. And Mahabharat, the title I chose, Wrong But Right. Breaking Dharma to Establish Dharma. So this is a very interesting subject, something that I'm very interested in, because it's a little bit counterintuitive. When we read Shastra, when we read like Vedic texts, we see that generally those who follow Dharma, they follow Dharma very strictly. So Dharma, it can mean religion, it can mean prescribed duty. Dharma generally means the function of something. Like, for example, the dharma of water is to be wet, the natural state of water, though then you find some situations where it's frozen as ice, but then the natural state of water is liquid. Anyway, this is a detail. Or, for example, the dharma of fire is to be hot, like this. So dharma refers to the constitutional function of an object. So in this context, dharma is referring to the duties of the living being, of the human, the outlined behavior according to religious scripture or Vedic wisdom texts, how a person should behave in this world for the benefit of themselves, for the people around them, and ultimately, dharma is meant for maintaining balance with with the universe, with our environment. So dharma is kind of the revealed wisdom, how we can live in harmony with our environment. So then how does it make sense to break dharma to establish dharma? So we live in a time of, in a world where dharma in the traditional Vedic sense is not very much respected or established. Actually, the Vedic perspective on the current world stage is that we live in a time called Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga refers to the age of hypocrisy and quarrel. So pretty much it's very difficult to know what is true and what is not true. There's a lot of misinformation and a lot of disagreement amongst people. So the Vedic perspective is that the current situation is dharma and adharma, the opposite of dharma, are fighting. So this clash of dharma versus adharma we find many times in the Vedic scriptures, but this really became solidified and manifested in the Mahabharat, of which the Bhagavd-gita is a small part. But this really became like manifest in this world during the Battle of Kurukshetra. So during the Battle of Kurukshetra, certain things happened where dharma and adharma really started to conflict with each other. That's the whole symbolism of the battle of Kurukshetra. We see in the Bhagavad-gita, how does it start? We have Arjuna, he's on one side, and then we have the Pandavas, Arjuna and his family, and the Kauravas on the other side. And the Pandavas, Arjuna and his family, they represent dharma. And then the Kauravas, they represent adharma, and they're fighting. And that's the symbolism, the fight between dharma and adharma. So then what is this subject of breaking dharma to establish dharma? Maybe you can take a moment to reflect, because when I knew I was going to give this talk, I was also trying to think, like, how does this apply to my life? Like, could I think of any practical examples in my life when I broke dharma to establish dharma? And I couldn't really. Like, I was thinking maybe sometimes we might tell a lie to protect someone. Like, there's a story in that I heard from devotees. One time there was a yogi, and he'd taken a vow never to tell a lie. And one time a small calf came running and disturbed him from his meditation, and the calf was hiding from a butcher who wanted to kill this calf. And then the butcher came and said to the yogi, "Have you seen this, innocent little animal?" And the yogi didn't want to tell a lie and said, "Yes, he's hiding over here." And then ultimately the result was this calf was killed. So that is one example where perhaps, and I would say, yes, you should lie. But according to religious principles, to speak untruth is adharmic. So I was trying to think of examples in my life, and I was thinking, when I was growing up, we were very like anti-establishment. We were very much like, the world is very corrupt and unjust, and big companies, they're exploiting. So my circle of friends, sometimes they would go into like big supermarkets or like very high-end stores, and they would steal from them. And these people, some of them were poor, but some of them weren't necessarily poor. They didn't actually need to steal to survive. And their justification was, like Robin Hood, stealing from the rich to give to the poor. Now, I'm not saying this isn't a good example of we should do this. I'm saying the reason I'm bringing it up is because in my personal life, I cannot think of good examples where I broke dharma to establish dharma. So then let's refer to Mahabharata. The trigger was Bhishma. You see this picture on the screen. Bhishma, he's the grandfather of the Pandavas, and he's lying on a bed of arrows. So this is a very beautiful, intimate pastime, which you'll read in the 9th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad-gita. Anyway, he was a great warrior and an amazing personality, but however, he was on the side of adharma, and it's complicated, and I don't want to go into it. But what happened was, after the fall of Bhishma, then many adharmic situations manifested in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and another trigger of that was the murder of Abhimanyu. So Kshatriya principles, warrior principles in Vedic tradition was, you see in the Battle of Kurukshetra, two sides, they agreed, they chose a location and they agreed to fight. And the fight is according to rules and regulations. They went away from civilizations, they went away from elderly, from women and children and villages and cities. They went to Kurukshetra, which is also a holy place. Kurukshetra is a place of pilgrimage. It's also a sacred place. And then they had this almost sacred war. But what happened was, because of the intensity of dharma versus adharma, both sides started to break the rules. So Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna, and he was killed by 6. He was a great fighter, and it took 6 of the Kauravas, of the great warriors of the Kauravas, to kill him. And so generally, Kshatriya principle is they only fight one-on-one. And also, I grew up in Australia. We also had rules like this, that you should only fight one-on-one. Not that like you two is fighting and then more people jump in and bash up this guy. And this is considered bad culture in Australia, although I'm sure it happens. So similarly, not similarly, it's a terrible example, but just for fun. But what happened was Abhimanyu, he was literally murdered because it took six of the enemy. Instead of fighting one-on-one, they basically ambushed him and murdered him against the principles of dharma. Dharma in the sense of Kshatriya dharma or warrior dharma. And what happened after this is both sides started to stop following dharma. I mean, already the Kurus were not following. They were not following dharma already. They embody and symbolize a dharma. But after this, it got really nasty. And one thing that I learned from studying this book, Ethics from Epics, is that if you do an objective analysis of the tactics used by both sides, the Pandavas, who symbolize dharma, they actually broke dharma more times than the Kurus after these events took place. So what happened was they were put in a situation whereby strictly following the rules and the regulations of dharma, the other side of adharma would have exploited them and taken advantage and actually conquered over them. So this is a very sensitive situation because in one sense you can justify like, oh, I'm lying or I'm cheating or I'm doing this to establish dharma, but so here's the key. The Pandavas, they did it under the guidance of Krishna. They broke dharma under the guidance and superior authority. So one example of this is police. Police, many times they break the law to establish the law. They speed to catch a criminal, or they go through a red light, or whatever it is, many examples you can think of in your imagination. So that's one example of how practically you can see that sometimes to establish law and order, you have to break the rules. And there's a few other examples, like if you get a thorn in your foot or your hand and you need to remove it, you take another thorn and you pick it out. Or similarly, like if you take poison, many times the antidote for poison is poison itself. Or like if you get bit by a snake, the antidote many times, at least theoretically, is some poison. So there are examples there we can see practically in our lives of how we sometimes need to break the rules in order to establish the rules. So the key message here is that needs to be done under guidance. If we leave it up to our own imagination and speculation, this is a great opportunity for us to quickly crash into some situation. The key is under guidance. But I thought that this was a very beautiful explanation to show that, like, rules and regulations in Vedic culture are very strict, very strict. They're, better to die than to break your word. However, under guidance of the right authority, there is a higher principle, and the higher principle is ultimately dharma. That is the higher principle. But then we see, like, it's not always a straight road to get there. Sometimes it requires some breaking dharma to establish dharma. So I'm gonna skip to the next slide. Unless one of you had a question or you want to interject, you're most welcome. Otherwise, I'm gonna jump to the next slide. All right, let's do it. Can you see this? So this is, I wanted to put a little bit of philosophy in the next couple slides, and then we'll go back to the stories. So here I wrote Arjuna, under the guidance of Krishna, instead of trying to artificially alter the external world, which anyway is out of his control, instead he changed his consciousness. So this is a little bit of symbolism from the Bhagavd-gita. If you see Arjuna's situation, you cannot think, well, you might be able to, but you cannot think of a more stressful situation if you see Arjun's situation, what is it? Okay, first of all, he has to fight in a war, which already is horrible. That already is a very uncomfortable situation. So he has to fight in this war. Not only does he have to fight in this war, which they tried to avoid in pretty much every possible way. On the other side is his grandfather who raised him, is his family members, is his guru, Dronacharya. And not only that, the fate of his family, his nation, his empire, the whole world, not even the whole world, the entire universe. Because when you read the Vedic scripture, this Battle of Kurukshetra was not just an earthly realm, it was actually the battleground of the cosmos. From the lower planetary systems, the subterranean species, they were coming up to the earth and fighting with those from the higher dimensions, the demigods. So the demons and the demigods, or the devas and the asuras, they used the earth as a battleground. So it was an intergalactic cosmological war. So super stressful situation. And Arjun, he came up with so many good reasons. That's the whole first chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. So many good reasons why he should not fight in this, dharmic reasons why he should not fight in this battle. Perfectly reasonable, logical arguments that even prophecies that came true, that we can see, like Krishna said, all these people will die, and what will happen is the older generation will get lost, culture will get lost, and people will degrade. And then practically we see after the grandson of Arjun, which is Parikshit Maharaj, after Parikshit Maharaj, I guess his son, whose name I forget, after him, there's no more emperors in the world. After that, it just degraded and Kali Yuga took over, and there was hardly any Vedic culture, hardly any Vedic culture. So Arjun, he gave so many good excuses why he should not participate in this battle. And what did Krishna teach him? Krishna said, okay, look, do what you want, but actually you cannot change what's going on in the world. You do not have the power. You cannot click your fingers and choose who's the next president of the United States, or you cannot click your fingers and end the war with Russia and Ukraine. You cannot control this world. You have a very, very, very minute independence, which you can have, depending how big your sphere of influence is, you can make very minor changes in the world. But ultimately, you're not in control. What you are in control of is your consciousness. And that's the whole teaching of the Bhagavad-gita, teaching the entire yoga ladder, culminating in, sarva dharma pritijam, mamekam sharanam vraja, give up all these varieties of dharma. Even Krishna says in the conclusion of Bhagavad-gita, give up dharma and surrender unto me. Sarva mamekam sharanam vraja, aham tam sarva pavapebhyo moksha masuchaha. Have no fear. Just come to me, follow me, have no fear, give up dharma, follow me, and this will be the best thing. But what is it? It's a change of consciousness. So this is a beautiful lesson from the Bhagavad-gita for us, that we should not try to artificially change the world around us, because we cannot control it. What we can control is our consciousness, how we react to situations, our consciousness, how we perform activities. And that is bhakti. That is bhakti. Bhakti is the consciousness behind the action. What's the difference between someone, cleaning the bathroom in the temple and cleaning the bathroom in some restaurant or whatever? It's simply the consciousness. The same person in the same situation. If someone's thinking, this is Krishna's bathroom, let me clean it for Krishna's pleasure, that is bhakti. In the same situation, anyway, the principle is the consciousness behind the action. That is the most important thing. And this we have control over. I love this beautiful poem, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I think I've spoken about it many times. Forget the past that sleeps and never the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee and progress thee shall call. The past is done, is sleeping. The future, it's just a dream. But right now, this is when we have the capacity to progress. This is what we have control over. This moment, our consciousness. That's a beautiful message from the Bhagavad-gita. And this changing of Arjun's consciousness, and Arjun, he's representing us in the material world. this change of his consciousness was the best for him, the best for his family, the best for the world, and the best for the universe, because this is Krishna consciousness. By watering the roots of the tree, all the leaves and branches are nourished. So I'm going to skip to the next slide unless you have anything to ask or interject. Right, let's go. Oh. So that's very
may I
noisy.
ask? May I ask something? Is it okay?
Please, let's do it.
Thank you so much. I'm very well aware, like staying in Mayapur before, like how strict devotees can be, but there were like a few standards, like some devotees are taking green tea, some are taking chocolates.
Yeah.
I felt like there are leniencies somewhere, uh, but uh, you know like there are grosser deviations which I can see when I go out and interact with people outside. Like going to Dubai and all, I have seen people like they're saying, "Oh, what are you Hindus? You don't take cow, you don't eat cows." It's in our religion that you have to sacrifice, especially on their Eid festival.
Yeah.
So they have to, offer some animals as sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little bit having thoughts, why would God give contradictory things? Like in for Muslims, they don't take pork, it's considered haram, and they don't take alcohol. So there are some matching things, like we also don't take intoxicants, but some religious wise, um, the concept that I have learned is there are different grades of religions, but when we see contradictory things like meat and all, so it's a kind of um, really difficult to digest for me. If you could elaborate, like in this age, um, particularly, especially it is so like in different countries where you don't have enough lentils and all this stuff, some seafood and all is considered like very much normal. I mean, at least that's not even too cruel in my opinion. So if you could tell, like, what is the best, um, stick to one path is, I think, the uh, thing that would help me not deviate, like ISKCON, and I just stick to it. But you can't avoid if you travel and see people, others, religions and all.
I think as you mature as a practicing spiritualist, you're able to rectify seemingly contradictory things. Like you brought up this point, like why would God have one religion like this and one religion like this?
Yeah.
But then you see, even within Krishna consciousness, there's differences of opinion over interpretations of Shastra. So contradictions are based on what, and even different religions is you have the one absolute truth, the eternal religion. We could even say dharma or Sanatan dharma, the eternal function of the living entity. And then what happens is when this comes in contact with the material energy, so Sanatan dharma plus material energy, modes of material nature equals different religions in the world. So what happens is different combinations of the material energy interacting with, the spiritual philosophy means like this is why in Krishna consciousness you have the principle of guru, right? Because if you take Shastra and you read it, you will filter through your consciousness a particular understanding, like based on how your psychology is, how the modes of material nature interacting on you. And the proof of that is that we literally have within Christianity, within Islam, within Krishna consciousness, different sects based on different interpretations of Shastra. So the thing is, as we mature as spiritualists, we need to be able to rectify seemingly different contradictions. So you brought up this point, like in Islam, they consider it a part of their religion to sacrifice cows. where in Hindu culture, and then obviously in the Vedic tradition, like cow is considered to be like a mother. There's 6 mothers, right? There's the mother that gives birth to you. There's, if you have like a wet nurse, they call in English, means, you know, a nurse that breastfeeds you. She's also a mother. You have the earth. Mother Earth is also a mother. You have the cow. Why? Because cow gives milk, same like your mother. Then that's 4. There's 2 others. Anyway, 6, I forget. Oh, the wife of the spiritual master, that's 5, and 1 more. So for us, ours is very simple. You take milk from the cow. Cow is like a mother. You're eating your mother. What kind of religion is this? Like, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he brings this up in in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the conversation with Shankazi. He makes this exact point. He's like, okay, you're saying it's a part of your religion, but your religion is proclaiming to eat your mother. So we don't consider this very nice. However, our function as, if we're aspiring to be, you know, Krishna conscious bhakti yogis in this particular line, we don't go around trying to disturb, like, how to say it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he teaches, like, when you see another religion, you understand these people, they're worshiping my Lord. They're just having a different kind of dress, a different kind of symbolism, but actually they're worshiping the same Lord. And one who's broad in their consciousness, they're able to appreciate this very simply. It's not difficult to understand. There's one Supreme Lord. And for some people, you know, that's Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Krishna, Buddha. For some people, it's Brahman. I am you, you're me, we're all one consciousness. For the yogis, it's Paramatma in the heart. And then for the Bhakta, it's Krishna in Vrindavan, or Narayan in Vaikuntha, like this, based on, but still we understand that God is one. And the thing is, okay, based on the worshipper, that oneness is manifesting in different varieties, but still we can reconcile that we are worshiping the same Supreme Lord, and that itself is the reconciliation. There is no contradiction. That it's just that it's a different thing. So, but we would say, like, there's some things that we don't accept. Like, we don't accept eating meat, and we would say, if you want to purely follow your religion, you like pure following, you would have to give this up. And it's a very simple, like, logical thing. Like, it's not difficult to see that it's horrible to kill animals. Like, because we're a small group, I can speak about my personal opinion. Like, there's so much scientific evidence that meat is healthy for some people. There's also evidence that, like, you know, red meat is not, whatever. But I'm not trying to sit here and say, like, meat is not healthy. I'm not even trying to say, like, there's always going to be a class of people that eat meat. There always will be. That's just how it is. It's not that the human being cannot eat meat, but what is not acceptable is, like, killing cows. Cow represent the mother. Killing the mother is not okay. And having slaughterhouses where you, like, you know, you have this industrial slaughter, like this industrialized, like, what's it called, like this line, this like continuous flow of slaughtering is completely unacceptable. And, like, according to Vedic tradition, this is the reason why there's war. This is the reason why there's disease. This is the reason why there's all famine and all these atrocities in the world, because of karma. And it's like, for me, like, just, it's not, like, I always think about this with my family and stuff, because I, you know, stopped eating meat as soon as I started practicing Krishna consciousness. And sometimes, like last time I went to Australia, they asked me, like, oh, why don't you eat meat? And I was thinking, like, you know, there's so many problems in this world. Can you not see the link? Like, you don't even have the consciousness to understand, like, you're creating so much suffering to another living being for your food on an industrial scale. Can you not see how that consciousness permeates into your interaction with the world around you? Like, somehow or other, you are okay with the slaughter of, like, tens of billions of other living beings. And, like, you can see, like, animals have feelings, they have personality, they have all these things. And then someone says, like, oh, animals, plants also feel pain. Okay, fine. But jiva jivasya jivanam, this is the material world. Material universe is hell, because one life's life is another life's life. That is how the world works. To live in this world, you have to kill. You have to, okay, when you take an apple from a tree, the tree doesn't die. But still, you know, when you pull out a carrot from the ground, I guess that's the end of its life, you know what I mean? But it's a completely different experience. You can imagine, like, we come, you, me, Carlo, we go on a field trip together, you know, we go out to the field, and there's one you know, baby cow there, and we take our big knife and we like hold it down, and she's screaming because she knows we're about to, and then we like slit her throat. Like the graphics of it, it's like horrible. Like, this experience is disturbing for everyone. There's nothing pleasant about this, you know. And even my friends and family that eat meat, like, they wouldn't want to do this. But then you think of the same situation here in Mayapur. It's like, you know, November, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. We go out in the field, we dig up some potatoes, we dig up some carrots, or we take in like some papaya from the tree, and then we come home, we chop it up, we make a salad, we cook it. Like, no blood, no gore, no smell. We don't even really need to take a shower afterwards. Okay, maybe we're a little bit covered in dirt. It's like a completely different experience. So if people cannot see the link between like the murder of all these innocent living beings and the problems that we're facing with the world today, then we don't really need to spend much time like talking to them about it. Like, I know I don't get into debates with my family about why they shouldn't eat meat. I just like respect them, they respect me, we carry on with our lives. Because how can you have a conversation? So we need to be able to, as our consciousness broadens, we need to be able to reconcile these seeming contradictions. And my conclusion to you would be like, why did God make a religion where some can eat meat and some can't? It's because like these people, they need to follow, they need to also worship God. Krishna also want them to worship him, but this is how they are. They eat animals, they eat meat. So this is like part of their, you know, if they didn't have this, then, and even you see, even their killing of animals is under rules and regulations. And I don't know much about Islam, but I was recently in Europe, and one of the brahmacharis, one of the monks living in the temple in England, he grew up as a Muslim, and he was explaining to me how this killing of cows is a misinterpretation of their scripture. So I don't have any evidence to back that up. Don't quote me. But it's not as black and white as like our religion is you should kill a cow. It's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that. So yeah, but for us, we need to be able to have like the emotional maturity is not the right word. We need to just have the maturity to be able to reconcile seeming contradictions. And we understand what is the principle. The principle is to love God with all your heart and love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the principle. And whatever means it takes to get there, we can follow that and we can accept that. But if you're trying to tell me that by killing a cow, that's going to help you love your neighbor as yourself, I'm not going to be so easily convinced. So that's my offering
Thank
to
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much. You know, like sometimes going when the vegetarian is available, I always try to stick to vegetarianism, but sometimes I have been negligent in following all those principles. So I felt maybe I would not be having any sinful reactions and all, but it's actually, you know, lack of compassion on my part
It's
to
it's
think
really
like, yeah.
interesting that you bring it up. I'm gonna
Thank you.
not in this slide, in the next slide, I'm gonna talk about this.
Thank you so much.
It's
Thank you
it's
so
gonna
much.
come
Thank
up. So just a little
thank
bit of wisdom from the Bhagavad-gita. The mind is more difficult to control than the wind. If you can imagine like a storm like this, it's going crazy, and then you go out in this storm and you put your hands and you stop, and you try to like, you cannot, it's a joke. So Bhagavad Gita is saying mind is more difficult to control than this. You think that is impossible? Mind is more difficult. However, the Bhagavad-gita is also giving the process to control the mind. And the next slides will get into that, but just a bit of a chant now, well, not just chant now, the whole Krishna consciousness philosophy. The way that we control the mind is through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. By, day after day, Chitodarpanamarjanam, cleansing the mirror of the consciousness through the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is the process recommended by the Vedic literature for us to be able to control the mind in the most simple and sublime way. But we're going to speak more about this. Let me take you there. So this is very relevant to what you were saying. This is from the 3rd chapter. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, for Krishna, has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you'll always remain free from bondage. So again, this is the consciousness behind the action. The consciousness behind the action will determine bondage in the material world. So we're going to break this down, and it's very relevant to what you were saying. So work, yajna, sacrifice, work, karma, has to be a sacrifice, a yajna. Otherwise, it causes this cycle of samsara, repeated birth and death. So on your point, you were talking about, it's not always possible for you to eat and this and that, and it's a lack of compassion. The thing is, like, according to the Bhagavad-gita, eating is also karma. So if your eating is not yajna, if your eating is not sacrifice for Vishnu, it will cause bondage in this world. And many times people ask, especially Hindus, they ask, where did Krishna say in the Bhagavad-gita you cannot eat meat? Show me where, show me the Sanskrit where Krishna said you cannot eat meat. I'm showing you right now. Work, karma, eating is also karma, has to be yajna for Vishnu. So Krishna says, if one offers me with love and devotion, and he says it twice, with bhakti, it has to be done with bhakti. If one offers me with love and devotion, bhakti, a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So this is what Krishna accepts. He offers fruits, flowers, leaves, and water. He does not accept dead animals, especially cows. So the thing is, like, according to the Bhagavad-gita, if you are eating meat, this is causing bondage in this world, which means you will take birth again. No matter how religious you are, no matter how strictly you follow, even if your religion is saying it's okay to eat meat. And also in Vedic literature, you also find rules and regulations for eating meat, for taking wine and other kinds of intoxication. There are guidelines and rules and regulations for this. So the point is, if the only things that you can offer in yajna, in terms of what you're going to eat, is a fruit, a flower, a leaf, and water, and varieties of this, which means, you can use your imagination. But the thing is, like, Krishna does not accept eating meat. He does not accept flesh. So if you're eating flesh, you will take birth again in this world, no matter how religious you are. If you're eating, your karma, you're eating, all these things, you offer them first to Krishna. This is the concept of prasadam. You take what you're going to eat, you offer it first. It's with the bhakti, the consciousness behind, this is for you. You can offer it to Krishna, or whatever conception you have of the divine. You can offer it to the universe. You can offer it to Christ, to Jehovah, Yahweh, Allah. My Lord, this is for you. Oh universe, impersonal blob universe. Or my sweet Krishna, this is for you. Please accept. And then you eat it. This karma is yajna, it's sacrifice. You've offered this karma to Krishna, and it does not cause bondage in the world. You are free from karma. And if you're free from karma, there's no more samsara, no more repeated cycle of birth and death. That is why, according to the Vedic tradition, you should not eat meat, because you cannot offer it. So that's, yes, it's a lack of compassion, but also you're just, there's a nice word, but you're just perpetuating your cycle of samsara in this material world. So we're almost there. I think 2 more slides. So walking the tightrope, law and love. This is also relevant to what we were speaking about before. Breaking dharma to establish dharma. But law and love, this is the balance between, yeah, anyway, we'll get into it. If we see in terms of symbolism, Krishna, he has a flute, which we all know. He has a stick for herding cows and also for whacking us on the head. He has a chakra, like a disc, and he has a lotus. So these 4 symbols, the flute and the lotus is for, benedicting us. The flute establishes harmony and, awakens, spiritual emotions within us. And the lotus also similar, same principle. Whereas the stick is for punishing and the chakra also is for punishing. So we see in terms of symbolism also this balance. And there's other examples of this, like there's the analogy, like within all of us, we have a good dog and a bad dog, and both making sound, and usually the bad dog is more loud. And depending on which one you feed, it gains more strength. So that symbolism is also there in Mahabharat as Duryodhan and Yudhisthira. It's the 2 personalities within us, the divine and the demoniac within us. So in the Vedic system, you have time is cyclical. So you have Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapayug, and Kaliyug. The current age is Kaliyug. So in Satyug, the divine and the demoniac, they were on different planets. So you have in the stories, you have like Hiranyakashipu and oh no, that's not correct. Different planets. I'm trying to think of an example. Anyway, you have like demigods and demons that are there, but they're separated. Right in Tretayug, different planets. In Tretayug, they're having, gosh, I'm doing a bad job. Maybe I can start from the bottom. In Kaliyug, it's mentioned that you have these 2, like divine and demoniac, within the one person. Where in Dwapayug, yeah, different families. So you have the Kurus and the Pandavas, the divine and the demoniac. They were in different families. Same planet, same country even, different families. Where in Tretayug, it was different countries. So you have Lord Ram and Ravan. So same planet, different countries. And then in Satyug, it's different planets. So in this age, the divine and the demoniac is within the same person. So this is personified by Duryodhan, who is the emperor of the Kurus, and Yudhisthira, who's the emperor of the Pandavas. So these are conflicting personalities within us. And so the Vedic system is encouraging, like, good governance means this slogan, like care and careful, which means how to say, like, if we just get all love and blessings, there's a tendency to be spoiled. Whereas if we get only chastisement, there's no opportunity for love. So I wanted to bring up this good and bad within that. It's like hard to find this balance, but we see that in the symbolism of the Vedic, there is a balance. The flute and the lotus is required, but also the stick and the chakra is also there. So we should, within our own selves, both law and love is required, which means, we should nourish ourselves. We have requirements, we have needs and desires. We should, manifest them, but at the same time, we need to be strict with ourselves. Like, I may want to eat a lot of ice cream, but if I eat ice cream all the time, it's a mundane example, but it applies to all aspects of our life. Both is required, law and love, rules and regulations, and encouragement, and love and nourishment and beauty. Okay. Oh, there's one more slide up. This is a very beautiful pastime. So it's a little bit hard to read, but Jatayu. So this is from the Ramayana. Jatayu, he's the personification of opposition to oppression and abuse. So what happened was Ravan, he kidnapped Sita, the wife of Lord Ram. And Jatayu, he's an old eagle and he witnessed this and he intervened. And that's because dharmic people, so he represents dharma, they cannot stand to see adharma manifested. And actually, Jatayu, he was far less powerful than Ravan, and he knew, if I fight him, I will die. But for him to stand by and let adharma run wild was worse than death. But first, he didn't just jump in and start throwing punches. First, he requested Ravan to stop what he was doing. He first told him, he's like, hey, this is not correct, you shouldn't do it. Then he tried to educate him, okay, what you're doing is going to be bad for you. It's not going to end well, and I'm not going to allow you to do it. And when that didn't work, then he started throwing punches. You know what I mean? So this is also a little lesson for us. We shouldn't shoot first and ask questions later. First we request, then we instruct. If they don't accept, we try to convince them. And then third, so I'm not saying you should go and start fighting criminals and stuff like that. That's not the message here. But the principle was, Jatayu, he was not willing to let adharma run wild in the world. He was not ready to do it. And the result was he was killed by Ravan. However, he died on the lap of Lord Ram. Lord Ram came and he was dying, and he died like the most glorious death. So that's very beautiful kind of symbolism about how there's a verse in Shastra. It's like dharma, I forget the Sanskrit, but the translation is dharma protects those. Oh man, I have to look it up and send you guys. But the principle is dharma protects those who follow dharma, which is kind of intuitive, right? Like if you follow dharma, dharma will then in turn reciprocate with you. And we see that in this story where Jatayu, he had the most, even though in a material calculation, it was a total disaster. Sita still was kidnapped. And Jatayu lost and he died, but actually his death was glorious. It was, you couldn't have asked for a better death, actually. And there's some examples. We see Jatayu and our verse Bhishma. So Bhishma, we saw in the beginning, he was lying on this bed of arrows. So Bhishma and Drona was the martial guru of the Pandavas. So basically, he taught them all the military arts, and he's also a very great personality. However, what happened was, they stayed on the side of the Kurus, on the adharmic side, and this was complicated and political, and essentially, anyway, we don't need to go into it. But there's this story where Draupadi, which is the wife of the Pandavas, Duryodhan tried to remove her clothes in a public assembly, which in Vedic culture, for a woman to be seen naked is a very dishonorable thing. So they were very adharmic people. They wanted to hurt the Pandavas very greatly. So they tried to remove her clothes in public, and then she prayed to Krishna, and ultimately she threw up her hands in there and said, "Oh Govinda," and took shelter of Krishna, and he supplied unlimited cloth. So anyway, that's another beautiful story. But because Bhishma and Drona, they were there and they witnessed this adharmic activity, and they stayed quiet because their authorities were the perpetrators of it. They're dharmic people, but because by circumstance, they chose to let our dharma be openly demonstrated. They were both killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. They were both defeated. So this is an example of where dharmic people, they follow adharma. Sorry, I'm just seeing dharma rakshitam. Thank you so much. You're a good man. Yeah.
My pleasure, Prabhu. It's actually dharma. I had heard it. It's all the
Dharma.
mercy of devotees from whom I may have heard in long time back. So every association, now I am grateful to you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Dharma
We need faith.
rakshita.
Yeah, it's from Mahabharat. I just googled it, and it's mentioned in Mahabharat and Manusmriti, verse 8:15. The dharma protects those who protect it.
Yeah, dharma protects those who protect dharma. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. And then we see when Bhishma and Drona didn't protect dharma, the wings of dharma were cut from them and they were vanquished. So the principle here we learn from Jatayu is he was the underdog. He knew he was going to die. But the principle is it doesn't matter who or what you are, but what you make of who you are. So it means like it's not, and there's another beautiful story on the same principle. When Lord Ram was going to Lanka to take Sita back, they built this bridge to cross into Lanka. And so you had Hanuman and all these, they were throwing mountains. And then you had these little squirrels. I heard two different stories. There's this little spider who's throwing like a grain of sand, and a squirrel who's throwing like small rocks. And then Hanuman is the great the great Hanuman. He's actually Lord Shiva, and he's seeing these little animals, and he's like almost tripping on them. He's saying like, hey, get out of the way, you're not even helping. Like, you see us, we're throwing whole mountains, you're just throwing like little grains of sand. And then Lord Ram, he says, Hanuman, don't you know I can build this bridge? Just, I'm like Supreme Lord, I can just manifest the bridge. I'm engaging everyone in this service and they're doing according to their capacity. So Lord Krishna, God, Ram, he's seeing what you're doing according to your capacity. Like we talk about service. Bhakti means devotional service. So someone may have so much capacity and someone may have small capacity, but it's not what you're capable of doing, but what you make of it. Like how much, if you're giving your heart 100, that's what Krishna wants. Krishna wants your heart. He wants your consciousness, your heart, your devotion. It doesn't matter, like someone can do on paper 10 million times more than you. He wants the essence, and ultimately he wants your love. And that's the example that we see here. So Jatayu, he gave his all, and that's what got the mercy of the Lord. So last slide, just to finish on something a little bit fun. This is a lesson from Bhagavatam. There's a section there where there's I think it's in Bhagavd-gita, it's in the 11th canto, forgive me if I'm wrong, but pretty much this personality, he's seeing how the guru, the prince, like generally guru refers to like, your spiritual master who's like a human who gives you mantra and stuff, but actually guru is a principle that manifests in different situations. So like to ultimately take you closer to your spiritual ultimate destination. That's what guru facilitates devotional service to the divine. So this personality, he was seeing how the principle of guru, like the educating principle that was enlightening him and helping him go towards his spiritual goal, was manifesting in all these different situations. And one of them that I really like, and I just wanted to pick one, was be like a bee and not like a fly. So if you see a bee and a fly, they're very similar. You might say a bee is beautiful or whatever, but they're both small, they have legs, they have little wings, and they fly around. They're very similar. But you see a bee is always going from flower to flower and collecting nectar, where a fly is always sitting on poo and going in wounds and dirty places. So this is an example to be like, we should be like the bee, not like the fly. And what does it mean practically? It means we should always try to see the good in the situation. We should always look for the nectar and not look for the stool and pus and blood. We should always try to see the good in people, the good in the situation, that our environment is always beneficial for us, not that I'm a victim and this person is bad and they did this to me. And it's not always easy, but it's a nice meditation that I have all the time. I really like this reminder that we should be like the bee. We should not be like the fly. We should go from flower to flower collecting nectar, not like the bee going from different places. So that's my presentation for you all. And it is 1 minute till we hit an hour. So no rush, we're a small group. If you want to have any reflections or some conversation, that's fine. But I hope that you gained something from this. I really enjoyed discussing these topics with you, and I think Vedic subjects are really beautiful. That okay, you have like scripture, and then you have like the teachings, but also you have all these beautiful stories that you can unpack and really collect a lot of meaning from them. That's very practical and helpful and interesting, and awakening for the consciousness. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for your time and energy. And if you want to add anything or some question or comment, feel free. Otherwise, we can finish on happiness.
Prabhu, little personal thing. Firstly, thank you so much for taking out time. Um, how was your trips and all? If it's like, did you feel like different kinds of association and varieties of different places? Did it add to your bhakti, or
Yeah,
you
it
prefer
did.
staying in one place?
Yeah, I got really inspired to improve my spiritual life. I realized that I was doing many things externally in the world that were connected to bhakti and Krishna consciousness, but I was kind of like, my service for Chant Now, or just, connecting with you guys, with other students, whatever, like doing so many things out externally. I was using this as an excuse not to work on myself. Means like all these things I was doing kind of out here because it's kind of easier than really like sitting and chanting and going deep and like seeing like the things that you need to work on, and like me as a soul connecting to the divine. I was not doing that because it's hard work to sit and chant good attentive rounds, like attentive meditation in a prayerful mood day after day, and to rise early and to study. I was not doing this hard work because it's hard work. It's much easier to go out and build things, and which is also required. But the realization I got was that I wasn't working on myself. So when I came back to Mayapur, I used this as an opportunity to try to really like, okay, yes, I'm gonna deal with the world. Yes, I'm gonna do my services. I'm not gonna neglect my duties and responsibilities, but I need to prioritize myself. I need to sit and I need to have really good meditation, and I need to spend time to study like literature for myself, because like for this I was reading for this presentation, and I have a few students that I read with every week, but it's not like, it's more about you guys, and it's also for me, but it's not really like, it's not me and Krishna. I wasn't giving time for me and Krishna. So I'm trying to focus on that these days. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It's really like, it's because there's so much stuff inside I don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? I don't want to face myself sometimes. I want to curl up in a ball and hide. I want to hide from the world. I want to hide from myself. I want to like disappear sometimes. So anyway, I had a very nice trip, and I learned a lot about myself, and I connected with amazing people. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet you, Carlo, but I did meet some of my Chant Now students, and even for the first time, I never met them only in the digital world. So that was really good. Um, and yeah, I had a wonderful trip. I feel very blessed. And I'm happy to be back in Mayapur. Mayapur is a wonderful, magical place. And yeah, I want to be better in so many different ways. I want to improve my life in so many ways. And I can see that I can do a lot more, but it's not easy. It's not, it's like where I want to be and where I am is two different things. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
no, you're most welcome. So
I also
then,
would like to thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm really happy that
Yeah.
this was sweet. It was like small, it was intimate. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy that you guys were able to encourage me. So thank you for your time and your energy, and I look forward to seeing you again. And Ananda Vilas Prabhu, yeah, we're just finishing now actually. I don't know, maybe I sent you the wrong time or something, but we're
Yeah. Actually, I was Prabhu. I forgot. I went to drop my wife
at the work, and then coming back, I forgot. I was driving.
Oh, no
I
problem.
want.
Anyway,
I
thanks
didn't
for
get a
making.
reminder also.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
I didn't even check. I was a little bit late today. Usually I send out a reminder 5 minutes before. Like, hey, we're gonna start
Yes.
in 5
Yes.
minutes. But today I didn't even check how many people registered. And I guess that's why you see like not many
Yeah.
people came. I didn't remind people. So anyway, my
Sorry.
mistake. I'm
Sorry
sorry
about
for
that.
that. No, it's all good. Now I know for next time I shouldn't be stuck. But I logged on like just like 7 minutes before we started, and then I had to like make sure everything was good
Yes.
and then post and the so I was late today. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a recording available?
Yeah.
Um,
I'll send you a recording. Yeah.
okay. Thank you very much.
So it's good. We can finish up. I'll just chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time, just so maybe some knowledge stay inside. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram.
And yeah, thank you for being in my lives. I'm so happy to be connected, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Hare Krishna,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
All the
Thank you.
best.